Everyone, hope you're doing well. Should I just start?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading Srīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart, Text 32. Ite shriti te nipavedagite tvaya bhivishte chasanatane cha yeva pura brahmana aha tushta radito bhagavan vasudeva. Do I read the word for word or just go for translation?
You can read the word to word, Prabhu.
Okay, word for word. Ite, all that is describes. Shruti, way. Te, unto you. Ripa, O Maharaj Parikshit. Vedagate, according to the version of the Vedas. Tvaya, by your majesty. Avi Prishte, being properly inquired. Cha, also. Sanatane, in the matter of eternal truth. Cha, verily. Ye, which. Vai, certainly. Pura, before. Brahmane, unto Lord Brahma. Aha, said. Tushtaha, being satisfied. Araditaha, being worshipped. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vasudevaha, Lord Krishna. Translation in purple by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, which whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped. Purport. The two different ways of reaching the spiritual sky and thereby getting emancipation from all material bondage, namely either the direct process of reaching the kingdom of God or the gradual process through the other higher planets of the universe, are set forth exactly according to the version of the Vedas. The Vedic versions in this connection are Yadasa Ve Pramuchyante Kamayasir Hridhi Shrita Ata Matyo Mito Bhavantyatra Brahma Samasnute Vrihadanyaka Upanishad 447 and Te Adichi Avisambhavanti Vrihadanyaka Upanishad 6-15. Those who are free from all material desires, which are diseases of the heart, are able to conquer death and enter the kingdom of God through the Archie planets. These Vedic versions corroborate the version of the Srīmad Bhāgavatam, and the latter is further confirmed by Shukadeva Goswami, who affirms that the truth was disclosed by the Supreme Personality of Lord Shri Krishna, Vasudeva, to Brahma, the first authority on the Vedas. The specific succession holds that the Vedas were uttered by Lord Krishna to Brahma, by Brahma to Narada, and by Narada to Vyasadeva, and then by Vyasadeva to Shukadeva Goswami, and so on. So there's no difference between the versions of all the authorities. The truth is eternal, and as such, there cannot be any new opinion about the truth. That is the way of knowing the knowledge contained in the Vedas. It is not a thing to be understood by one's erudite scholarship or by the fashionable interpretations of mundane scholars. There is nothing to be added and nothing to be subtracted, because the truth is the truth. One has to accept, after all, some authority. The modern scientists are also authorities for the common man for some scientific truths. The common man follows the version of the scientists. This means that the common man follows the authority. The Vedic knowledge is also received in that way. The common man cannot argue about what is beyond the sky and what is beyond the universe. He must accept the versions of the Vedas as they are understood by the authorized specific succession. In the Bhagavad Gita, also the same process of understanding the Gita is stated in the 4th chapter. If one does not follow the authoritative version of the acharyas, he will vainly search after the truth mentioned in the Vedas. Om Gyan Timadandasya Jnanana Shalakya Chakshuni Tamyena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vistavam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Garamayam Dadati Swabanantikam Vanchakalpa Turu Vischa Kripasindu Vyevicha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Yata Yata Tasmin Daskaram Sutaram Bhavet Visrute Vidyatim Syat Shri Chaitanya Nananamitam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadari Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasaya Vadesha Deva Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deva Gaurivani Vachani Nivesesha Samivadi Vashita Deshatari. Knowledge of the truth can be attained in so many ways. We've been given 3 ways: Prataksha through sensual perception, Anumanta through inference, and by Shabda Brahma through transcendental sound vibration. So one can get information from all 3. For example, Prataksha. I remember when I was a child, I used to think that teachers used to live in the school, because that's the only place you would see them, You would go home and they'll be there before you came and they'll still be there after you left. So I thought, yeah, that's where they live. I didn't know they had homes and this and that. I thought that's their life. They're just there in that building and that's all. They don't have a life outside of the school. So that's a good, that's an example of protection. I get some information. Yes, they are at the school during the day, during the week. But I didn't know they had a life outside of the school. And with Anumanta and inference, like for example, you could you could, like, I'm here in the house, but I can hear some swooshing of cars nearby. So I understand, okay, there's a busy road nearby. But I don't know how many lanes it is. I don't know what color the cars are. I get some information. Because of previous experience, I can just sort of guess what's there. But the best way to understand any truth is by Shabda Brahma, by the transcendental sound of the Vedas, which is given through disciplic succession. This is real science. Again, in school, the first thing they taught us, that like this, we're like 5 years old, that this giant book, and we don't know what it was, it's just they're showing the book. And they taught us how NASA landed a man on the moon. And I remember just accepting it. Yeah, this is exactly what happened. They flew a rocket, they landed there, they had the pictures, from 60s, and completely true. This is as it is. And even when we read the 5th canto, shows the structure of the universe, even then it's like hard to believe, because we've just been accepting the authority of like so-called scientists. saying that yes, there's only like 9 or 10 planets in the planetary system. There's only life on this planet, and that's it. We accepted it. Movies say the same thing. Any science fiction, we take it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Even though we never inquired or did anything to try and find out more. So this idea of always accepting an authority, it will always be there. You kind of run out of, you cannot run away from this. So a disciple of Prabhupada asked Prabhupada, it's like, how can we really scientifically prove Krishna consciousness? How can we scientifically understand Krishna consciousness? And Prabhupada didn't answer for a while, but he kept pushing. How can we scientifically prove Krishna consciousness? And then Prabhupada replied, Shri Guru Parampara. This is how we scientifically prove. This is how we scientifically experience Krishna consciousness. And we see here that Maharaj Parikshit is setting an example. Shukadev Goswami setting an example. And here we're hearing about Lord Brahma being the first in line of the Sampradaya by receiving the transcendental knowledge from within the heart, and then passing it down to Narada, to Vyas, and so on, all the way to Srila Prabhupada. And I think this is the strength of our movement. If you were to look at any other religious tradition, where, say, Christianity or Islam, they're the major religions of the world, we would accept the same. But there's no disciplic succession, you can trace all the way to Jesus Christ, or disciplic succession to trace all the way back to Muhammad, which gives room for interpretation, interpolation, and just deviation from the real understanding that was given by God himself, by Krishna himself. Here we can confirm in 3 ways exactly what are we learning. We learn that it's by Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. So if you're wondering whether your understanding of Krishna consciousness or your practice of Krishna consciousness is legitimate, then you can check it with the spiritual master. Am I doing this right? Is this fine? You can check with the devotees, the advanced devotees, the sadhus, and you can check with the scripture. Because blind following is condemned. We are not blind followers. A majority of us come from a Hindu background, and we do that quite a bit, even in other religions, of course, but just you would ask, why do we have to get up? Why do we have to bow down? Why do we have to do this ritual? And usually, your parents say, don't ask these questions. Why are you asking? Just follow. This is good. If you don't do it, the God would punish you. We have to please God. So people who grow up in the modern age where science is an authority, where things need to be proved by scientific theory, everything needs to have a reason behind why we do it. So, many, even in Krishna conscious, Krishna devotees, the kids of devotees, they don't want to practice, because they see their friends achieving so much more than they are. I'll give you an example. I was growing up as a Hindu, and they'll tell me, okay, if you want to pass your exam, you worship Saraswati. Okay, I'll worship Saraswati. Okay, if you want money, you have to worship, Ganesh or Lakshmi. Okay. If you want this, you worship this demigod, worship, like this, back and forth. So many gods to worship, and so many things to achieve. But then I saw my Aussie friends, they don't worship anyone, and they're getting more money than me. They're achieving better grades than me. And, they're just having a much more better life than me. Bigger houses, more success. So I was thinking that doesn't work, because this is just mythology. Okay. All right. Changing the phones. Okay. Very good. Yeah. I think you have to make me the. Okay, we're good. All right. So, they got everything. So, there was one time where, yeah, I'll say it. When I was younger, then there was like this terrible incident that happened at home. And my, it was like within the family, it was like big argument. And then one of the family members pulled out a knife. And I'm thinking, what's he gonna do? He's gonna stab someone else, he's gonna stab himself like this. And then he starts cutting his arm like this, cutting his own hand like this. And I was praying to God, all the gods on the altar, please, like, stop this and do something like this. Once I saw the blood, then I became atheist on the spot. I didn't believe in anyone anymore. This thing doesn't work. And yeah, this is the manifestation of not having true knowledge, not having knowledge that comes through parampara. You become an atheist. You become a life, you have a life that's full of depression, with no hope, aimless. You just go for whatever is dictated by your mind and senses. And Krishna says that, Vamsa Jivaloke, Jivabhuta Sanatana, Manasasjani Indrani, Prakristani Karshiti. That the living entities, they're struggling with the six senses, which include the mind. And yes, the mind is the source of all problems. We know that. How many times have we heard of some celebrity or some famous person or rich person or even an intellectual person uh, committing suicide or suffering from depression? Rich people, yes, for sure. I mean, I go and travel around the world, and you may know the Hinduja family. They're the richest people in the UK, with like 17.4 billion pounds. So, billion, it's like, you can't even spend it. There's so much money. So then apparently one of their sons committed suicide, and, the devotees tried to help him through it, obviously. I mean, you're sitting on 17 billion pound, and then, your mind is so disturbed. You don't feel any satisfaction. Just to end the pain that's within your mind, you commit suicide. Young man. Even famous people, how many we've seen, end up dying from overdose, even committing suicide. They always wanted more. Musicians. And then even intellectuals. I remember when there was one documentary was talking about like prodigy kids, kids who are super talented. So there was one kid who was very intellectual. He was so smart that he couldn't interact with normal kids. So then he always had to have discussions with professors in the university. And his conclusion by his intellect was that we are just reproductive machines. That's all we're for. Everything else, there's no real meaning to it. All the poetry, all the, decoration, the art, it's just, there's nothing to it. It's just for reproduction. That's all we're trying to do. And that made him depressed. He's like, what's the point of life? And the professors there trying to convince him, no, there's so many nice things. You can do art, you can play, you can do sports, there's theater, you know. But that was not enough for him. And he was just, the parents were worried about him. Oh, he's so depressed, he cannot be a normal, happy kid. But even though his intellect was through the roof. So what is the point of getting mundane knowledge? What is the point of having so much fame? What is the point of having so much wealth if one is not happy? If one cannot experience love or express love? So this is the point of getting Sabda Brahma. This is the point of getting transcendental sound vibration. To purify the heart. The heart is closed up, full of material desires, identifying with this material world, with this material body. How can you show love if you don't know who you are? How can you be happy if you don't know who you are? But Bhagavad Gita, the Gita Upanishad, the essence of all the Upanishads, from the first get-go, is telling us Deo Smin Yata Dehe Komanomyo Vinamjara Tatata Hantara Prapti Dirastacha Damungiti. We are not these material bodies going through babyhood, childhood, youth, and old age. No, we are something more beyond death, moving on to the next body, the next body. So you may have heard this many times, but how much do you understand it? We are regularly going to South Africa, and many devotees are there. They have a big Indian population that were starting up the movement and also continuing on with the movement. But obviously, Prabhupada wanted the local population, the Africans, to take up Krishna consciousness. Same in Australia. Also, the local population should take up this movement. But there, because of the history of the country, they call it apartheid, where there was segregation of whites, Indians, coloreds, and blacks. And there was a hierarchy, kind of like your caste system in India, that people were separated by which caste they were born in. So in the same way, according to the race you were born, you were separated. So Indians, unfortunately, we are always looking for honor and prestige. It's just in our blood. And, when we see someone who's in a high ranking role or profiling, then, we give them much respect. If someone has no role and no status or position, we treat them differently. We don't see them for who they are as a servant of Krishna, the spirit soul. It's very, quite innate in us. So those Indians who are in South Africa, they're dealing with two caste systems, the 1,000-year one from India, and then the 100-year one in South Africa. So then they come to Krishna consciousness, they hear the philosophy, they love, they build a beautiful temple in Durban. They get so much association from sannyasis who come through all the time. But still, to accept someone, who's in a lower race than you, that could be your equal or even your worshipable, uh, an advanced devotee more than you, it's a bit too much. So this body identification is so deep rooted. This knowledge that's given by the mundane world is so deep rooted that we even ready to sabotage our own happiness, our own love for ourselves as a spirit soul, our love for other living entities, and then of course that love for Krishna that we're all searching for. We're ready to sabotage it. How much do we really believe we're not this body? That's what we think, okay, we know this, we've heard this many times before, but do we really feel like we understand it? Do we really feel like, yes, I'm a spirit soul detached from this body and it's all its labels? Even within Krishna consciousness, do we identify as a servant of Krishna, or do we identify as a pujari or a manager, or I'm a bhakti rickshaw leader, or there's even within there's the labels we identify with. Because if you identify as one of these positions, and there's oh, can you wash your pots? No, I am so and so from long time, 20 years, and I don't do this. But if you identify as a servant, it's well, all I want is service. So yeah, pot washing, it doesn't really matter. So we can see even the material designation can take place subtly within our devotional service. So what is the way to break through this? We need to enlighten our hearts. Divyagan hide prakashito, with transcendental knowledge. Our lives are darkened and they get enlightened by the spiritual master. Chakudan dilaje, jammi jammi. Prabhupada said that our Lord, birth of the spiritual master, his lotus feet is the only way to attain the goal of pure devotional service, pure love for Krishna. So this is our saving grace. This is the secret of success. Yes, yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada nagatikatopi. That is by the mercy of the spiritual master, we get everything, all the realizations that we are not this material body, that we are a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. And our life, our essence, our Sanatan Dharma, such a word thrown around, is to serve him. This is our perfection. And the spiritual master does that for you, just by giving you instruction. The Prabhupada set the example. You know, we give him so much credit that he's saving the whole world with his books and his movement and his example, the Acharya. But what does he say? There's no credit to me. This is all the mercy of my spiritual master. It was my spiritual master's idea to go and preach in the West. It was my spiritual master's idea to write books. And he took no credit at all. Even he would say, if there was any credit of my own, is that I didn't add anything, I didn't subtract anything. He gave it as it is. So this is the idea, that to get whatever was said by Lord Krishna to Lord Brahma as it is. This is the most amazing thing that could ever happen to us, that we could somehow, we are like this insignificant jeev. We're like an ant, an insect to the demigods. We are so insignificant in this universe, in this cosmic manifestation, but somehow we can connect to the King of Kings, to the bosses of bosses, to, the most highest of the high, and in the most intimate way, as loving devotional service, to know him, what he looks like, and experience him in our lives. This is what transcendental knowledge is doing. It's not that you get enlightened and now you know so much, but your heart becomes open to receive the Lord of the heart. So modern scientific knowledge cannot do that. It's devoid of mercy. They don't even believe in demigods. What is at least like, if you believe in demigods, then, you have a sense of like, okay, there's a higher power and I need mercy. You become humble. You're so proud. That's why you can't access anything. So we need to pray that don't let us be bewildered by our senses and mind, sensual perception. Don't let us be bewildered by mundane intellectual pursuits. Let us be enlivened by the transcendental knowledge that's given by Krishna through disciplic succession. And let's see those examples in the Bhagavatam and the person Bhagavatam. This is the way we'll be delivered. This is how you put rocket boosters in your life. All these examples that are presented here. Because what is the result? We're all sending our kids to normal schools. What is the result? Well, the week of school is starting today, and we've been doing it for 10 years. That is the result of modern education. Just a bunch of animals. That's all it is. Just what do they do with all that knowledge? They finish the degree. They get an enter score, 99.9. What do? They all go to surfers. They all go to drink, smoke, take intoxication, drugs, losing virginity, engaging in illicit sex, even some getting raped, some getting in fights, some getting alcohol poisoning, drug overdose, some getting so bewildered by their so-called happiness, they fall off the balcony and die. This is what's going on. This is every year. So we need to give them the truth. So today, there'll be Rath Yatra at schoolies. We're all going to start at 6:30. You have to come. They need to get the mercy of Lord Jagannath. I don't know how we got Rath Yatra there, but Lord Jagannath wants to be there and, increase the mercy, the ocean of, the ocean of bliss. And inundate all these kids who are just bewildered by material mundane knowledge. And then give them the real juice, the real knowledge, the life of all transcendent knowledge through Harinam Sankirtan, through worship of the Lord through Jagannath Rath Yatra. This is a great way to witness the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is giving that goal of the Vedas, that love of God that was never really achieved, that love in Vrindavan, to the most fallen. We may think, okay, I'm not the most fallen, but they are definite. When you see that, how they get enlivened by dancing and chanting, you think, okay, this movement is real. This movement is bona fide. It's not just us. It's it's a universal event, and I'm a part of it somehow. Insignificant me. So this is the manifestation of the Bhagavatam. It appeared in Kali Yuga to push Harinam Sankirtan. And those who are really intelligent, those who have good brain substance, they engage in worshiping the Yogi Purush Lord Chaitanya by dancing and chanting in ecstasy. This is the result of transcendental knowledge. This is the result of following the Parampara. This is the result of receiving the mercy of the Lord. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions. Hare Krishna. I don't know if we ran out of time. What time are we supposed to finish?
7. Nothing much travel. It's good time.
It's good. I think everyone's bewildered.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your wonderful class. You very nicely mentioned that how most of the times we are operating at a bodily level. We know Dehino and Spin Yatha Dehe, but how much times we follow it. And because of that, we are kind of always in this illusion around we are the body, and all our actions and our thoughts, most of the times, if not all, are at the bodily platform. And then you also mentioned that to come out of it, we should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. But probably like, in my experience, when we read spiritual content or hear this transcendental message, yes, we do come out of this illusion momentarily, but then the illusion is very quick to cover us again in no time. How do Prabhu we kind of try to be at that real understanding of identity all the time? How can we transcend that so that it's not just a momentary transition during the class or a harinam, but it's predominantly all throughout the day?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's why we do Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. So one needs to serve the Bhagavatam always. So we do that by hearing the Bhagavatam. Very powerful and very mystical, actually. The fact that you're asking me a question, that means like Krishna within your heart will understand and start working things in such a way that you experience what was discussed in the class. And even when you speak Bhagavatam, Krishna will test you throughout the day to see if you're actually practicing what you're preaching. So that's the danger of speaking Bhagavatam. But yes, so there's two ways where we do Bhagavat Seva. So it's by hearing, reading the Bhagavatam, which can be done very easily. I mean, transcendental sound, like I'm sure all of you have that Prabhupada box. From the get-go, once you wake up, you just let that sound roll and something goes in. And also by serving the instruction of the spiritual master. this is how we are always in touch with the transcendental platform. Again, we may not be realized of that platform, but just by engaging in the instruction of the spiritual master, even as simple as chanting our 16 rounds of japa, this is following the instruction of the spiritual master, actually. And we think, well, everyone's doing that, But even though everyone's doing it, it's very special. It's extremely transcendental. Krishna's there, and you can be with Krishna personally through his holy name if you cry out, if you really want to be with him. And that feeling is amazing. I'm speaking like this because I just came from the Holy Name retreat with Sachinandan Swami. And I did one 3 years ago, it changed my life. And then I did one again, and it's gone even deeper. And the thing that I realized, two things, was that Krishna is always waiting for you to interact with him. He's like always waiting and very eager to have like an intimate, personal interaction. It's actually quite scary. And that I've always been indifferent to him. So this, it's supposed to. This realization is not like, okay, now I'm showing off my realization, but I'm just trying to say that, okay, put me in a position of humility, and then I'm able to pray to the Lord, please help me. I'm so dull that I don't appreciate you as the holy name. I don't understand you as my best old friend that was always there. I'm always looking for like a close, intimate friend that understands me and is willing to accept me for who I am. We don't expose ourselves to everyone, because they may cut off their ties with us. But Krishna, he knows everything. He's in the heart. He saw all the stuff that we've done. And, we're really shameful of, but he still accepts us and wants to be with us. So how that prayer, and you chant in that mood, thank you so much for being there, and I'm sorry for what I've done. Then it becomes a personal exchange, and that's what the soul is supposed to do. So we can do that with every step, actually. How many times before we drive or go somewhere, we sing the Shinga prayers. We sort of do it a little bit ritualistically, but you can do it in a more personal way. It's like, okay, we're going to do something a bit dangerous here. And I know you protect the devotees, my dear Lord Nishingadev. Please allow me to remember you, whatever happens. So the soul is supposed to turn to the Lord, take shelter of the Lord. This is our natural position. This is our constitutional position, to always be in touch, in a way of intimacy, a way that the Lord can also reciprocate with you. Place ourselves in that position. Once you're proud, like, yeah, I got this. I'm so good at chanting. Look at me here. Look at me sit straight. Then, you don't feel anything. You're just saying sound. It feels like you're just running through the motions. You kind of maybe intellectual more, but like something from the heart with emotion for the Lord, asking for mercy and guidance. This is the position of the soul, a place of humility, which is the opposite of false ego. That's why it's so difficult. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, Prabhu, that was really insightful. Yeah, lot of things for me to meditate on. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Welcome to Brisbane. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
your servant Sakirai Das. Nice to see you.
Nice to hear you.
Yes. One question I want to ask for the benefit of everyone is, yes, we are, asked to follow the parampara. Prabhupada also mentioned that surrender with intelligence, not surrender your intelligence. So, especially in critical circumstances, how do we discriminate between whether should I just follow the authorities and which authority again? Because
Yes.
once you join the movement, there are many authorities we have.
Yes.
We just don't have one authority. And in modern times, so many gurus have got so many disciples that even approaching the guru becomes difficult. Of course, the classes and the instructions of the spiritual master are our life and soul. But still, we have to use intelligence in individual circumstances. So, how do we differentiate between complete surrender and surrender with intelligence, where the spiritual master actually becomes happy with our services?
Yes.
We're going through something similar practically in our lives. So we want this clarified as to, how do you discriminate between these two?
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, ultimate authority is our spiritual master. That's the short answer. We do have many authorities, temple authorities, there's the JBC. There's also like other devotees who are just more advanced than us. So there's so many. But ultimately, it's the spiritual master. The example in the Bhagavatam is when, Priyavrata. So he went to do austerity under the instruction of Narada Muni, his spiritual master. But then there was no king to rule the universe. And Lord Brahma came and said, hey, we want him to get married and, become king and rule the universe. And he was determined, Narada Muni told me so. So then, even Lord Shiva came and like this. So many came to, break his determination in his vow to be brahmachari. And Lord Brahma said, you cannot go against the will of the Lord. And then he's like, okay, let me take it up. But then he was praying for shelter that, okay, please allow me to whatever, by engaging this, it looks like entanglement, hold on to my spiritual advancement and not be like distracted and taken away. And you find that happening with even transcendental personalities before they endeavor onto something, like Shukadev Goswami prayed before he spoke. Lord Brahma prayed before he started to create. So even the great personalities, before they get into something, they would ask for prayers to be able to do it. So he could say that, okay, well, Narada Muni was his authority, and then, the higher ups came through and said, no, you have to do this. So in our situation, still our spiritual master is the main authority. May not be institutionally popular, but that's the main authority. But does that mean that we always reject our authorities on the ground level? Like, temple managers, senior devotees, GBC, does that mean that they have zero authority altogether? Well, we would always follow them. Whatever the devotees want us to do, we're always ready to do. As long as it coincides with the instruction of the spiritual master, then, if it doesn't deviate us from that, then we're happy to be their servant. The only time that you may respectively, this is very important. You have to be respectful when you disagree with them. Not that like, no, you're not my authority, I don't care about you, I do my spiritual master, you are useless, kind of. No, we can respectfully disagree with some authorities. That is fine if you do it with respect. And otherwise, and yes, so then we follow the instruction of the spiritual master, and we still have respect for those other authorities. But if those same authorities tell you to do something that coincides with your spiritual master's instruction, we're gonna do it also. We don't disregard them. We don't disregard their opinion whatsoever. So anytime a devotee is asking you to do some service, you should always consider, can I do it, actually? The only time that you would refuse to do it if you're already engaged in another service, or it, pretty much goes against what your spiritual master has asked. And at the same time, even though they may have, maybe they're a bit angry about you not following their instruction, it doesn't mean you can't be friends. You can still have a good relationship. You just clash in service, that's fine. But you can still have love and respect for each other, because there's not many devotees. There's only a few of us. So there's no need to have so much dissension. Because obviously the spiritual master is very happy when the disciples are having good relationships. It pleases him very much. So it's not a utopian kind of world where everything is just perfect. We're all individuals. Even in the spiritual, there's disagreement when it comes to serving Krishna. But the idea is for an individual wondering which path to choose and who to please, as priority, it is the spiritual master. That's the main person. But yes, like intelligence. So you have to consider still, be sensitive of what's being asked for you. Think about it. Like Priyavrata, he thought about it. He wasn't like damn determined. He was thinking about it. He got a lot of advice. He made sure that his endeavor was sincere, that he wasn't working from false ego, like this. So this is I kind of gave a brief way of how to navigate when we have conflicting instructions from different authorities. Is that okay, Prabhu? I hope I covered your question.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive and exhaustive answer. Thank you, Prabhu. And we will see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Jai Siddha. Okay. What time you usually end? Now's time?
When guests are there, no time limit, brother.
Okay, sure. All right, if you want to ask one more, we can do that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I just saw your message in the chat a while ago and I joined in. I just wanted to know, is this the first reading or have I missed a few?
What's that, sorry?
Is this the first reading?
Oh, no, this was a class that's run by the Brisbane devotees. So they invited me to give a class. So it was just a one-time thing for me. But they do this every morning at 7:30. You're in Canberra, right?
Yes, I'm in Canberra.
Yeah. So it's 7:30 every morning. They have a Bhagavatam class by different devotees. So they read translation and purport, and then they speak and discuss. So this is the platform for mainly the Brisbane devotees.
Thank you so much.
But you're welcome, of course.
6:30 in the morning, Prabhu. 6:30.
Yeah, it's just she's in Canberra, so they're an hour ahead.
Yes, 6:30 Brisbane time. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so Brisbane is 6:30. No problem. So I didn't want to confuse anyone. All right, cool. I think we're good, right? We can end it here. Canto Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll see you on the streets. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Such a beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
See you at schoolies.